We'd like to welcome everyone today for coming. Thank you for coming. We will call to order the Salem Area Mass Transit District Board of Directors meeting for Thursday, August 22nd. Jolene, could you please note the attendance? Thanks. All right, and Director Carney, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now we'll turn it time over to our general manager to go over the safety moment thought for the day.
Great, thank you. So in August, the safety theme for the month is hazard awareness, and we would ask people to please be aware of their surrounding situation as it comes to potential hazards, especially in their workstation, as it relates to exposed electrical cords, like perhaps over there, so be careful walking in that area, and always ensure file cabinet doors are closed and walkways are clear of debris. It's important to identify existing and potential hazards so you're better equipped to create a safer environment at work. And that concludes our message for today.
Great, thank you. Are there any announcements or changes to the agenda?
No.
All right. Next up, we don't have any presentation for tonight, so we'll move right on into public comment. I don't know.
Hey, Julie, grab the sheet.
Okay. Is Alan first?
Yeah, Aaron Arvidsson.
We'll call Alan Arvitz to come up and testify. And Alan and members of the board, just so you know, Alan has provided written testimony, excuse me, that we'll be distributing now.
Yes, I'm simply here to support the H1 agenda that you guys have on the bus route 25B that is being installed as the Kubler link. I think it is a very good idea. I got a job at Amazon and I looked up the bus route to take me there, and if I left at Liberty and Skyline at 5:38 in the morning, I would not get over to Amazon until 7:15 at the bus stop there, which would require 2 transfers and would ultimately make me 15 to 20 minutes late for work. Therefore, I started a petition before I even realized that you guys had all of this in the works. And I got a lot of community support from South Salem regarding the connection of the southwest portion to the southeast portion. And I've presented that to you guys. Like I said, I just learned of this yesterday, and I don't really need to present my piece because it's already been presented and you guys are mulling it over. I would just like to hereby give my support to 25B.
Great. Thank you so much, Alan.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Are there any questions for Alan? No? Okay. Thanks, Alan.
All right. I do know that it, sorry, may I continue?
Sure.
I know that it costs a substantial amount more than 25A, the other proposal that's on the agenda. However, I believe it will provide a lot more support in the future and ultimately be cheaper in the end than the 25A proposal. And even though the city council has turned down the development project on the south end of Kubler Boulevard, I believe in due time, no matter what we do, there will be something there, and there will be a required bus route along Kubler Boulevard. So I think it is a good idea to establish 25B.
Okay. Thank you so much. We'll discuss that later in this meeting.
All right.
And congrats on the job. Next up for public comment is Enrique Ruiz.
Good evening, everyone. Hello, my name is Enrique Ruiz. I'm the Field and Data Manager for PECUN, Oregon's Farm Workers Union, and I am also a community member residing in Northeast Salem. At PECUN, we fight for farm workers and Latinx working families across the state. We believe that every community should have a say in the decisions that affect them, whether those decisions are related to workplace safety or the places they live. It is important for PECUN that the Cherriots transit system is both equitable and accessible. Many Latinx working families don't have drivers in their households because having driver's licenses is not accessible. Instead, our families rely on public transportation to fulfill their needs, such as taking their kids to school, going to doctor's appointments, and grocery shopping. We've made huge strides to provide driver's licenses for our undocumented brothers and sisters. However, public transportation will remain to be in huge demand for our community. One of our own members at PECUN has been affected by an inaccessible transportation system. As a student of Chemeketa, the times available of the buses between Woodburn and Salem was not realistic for this member. To get his education, oftentimes he rode his bike from Woodburn to Salem and back on the 99E. This story is not unique to our community. There are many counts and many barriers that are faced by farm workers and Latinx working families. We ask that as you strengthen the transit system in Marion County, you do so by providing transportation without justification. We must ensure that our communities remain safe and accessible for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Enrique. Next up is Alondra Sanchez Luz. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Alondra. I am 13 years old. I am here today to introduce the topic of gentrification caused by investment in public.
Alondra, could you speak a little closer to the mic?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Gentrification stands for the displacement of the group of people, particularly low income and people of color, due to increase in housing costs. There are studies that show a connection between moderate investment in public transportation and increase in housing costs. Just look around, the transit bus station is near at least 3 condos that my family would only dream to live in. Yet it's my family that needs transportation the most. I have to cross a main road that is highly trafficked and a train track to get a bus stop. How many main roads do these condemned people need to cross to get here? I ask you to think about this and to find out how our community can work together to prevent gentrification with our new public transit investment.
Thank you very much, Alondra.
Yeah.
Next up is Alex Navarro.
Good evening. My name is Alex. I'm 15 years old, and I'm here to ask the Cherriots board to connect to transportation and housing issues impacting my community. Currently, the rent is too high, and it's getting worse that my family had to move more than 3 different times in 1 year. This has affected my education and access to other activities. One, because I cannot afford a bus pass, and second, I live too far away from my school now. I know that you are not in charge of housing, but I know that you can work together with our government to ensure that better transportation and affordable housing work together to ensure that our community has full access to decent living. Remember that we need public transportation for working class families, not condo living rich folks who ride the bus to be hip.
Thank you, Alex. Fabiola Cruz. Yeah? Okay, great.
Hello, my name is Fabi. I'm currently a college student, and throughout life, a lot of my family, peers, and myself have depended on the Cherriots transportation to get to our destinations. On your website, I found your Cherriots Equitable Access mission, and throughout it says, Cherriots is committed to fairness and equity in creating opportunities for your riders, and it states that the way you provide equity and access for all by valuing civil rights, accessibility, and reasonable modifications. When talking about transportation, it goes hand in hand with affordable housing due to the gentrification that is caused by public transportation. Now, according to the Department of Housing and Urban Development's Guidebook for Creating Connected Communities, typical households in auto-dependent neighborhoods spend about 25% of their income on transportation costs, but this number drops to at least 9% in neighborhoods with a variety of mobility options. The savings of both dedicated affordable housing and decreased transportation cost allows these families to save for home ownership or market rate housing, spend more money in local economy, and spend on essential services such as healthcare. These benefits are not just individual but societal as well, as they place less strain on social services and resources, and by us coming together with affordable housing as well. I'm presenting myself today because this has become an issue that needs to be discussed, that needs to be brought into more attention. Changes need to be made in order for transportation to also run smoothly for the ones who are on the bus, which is why I had brought the solutions.
Great. Thank you so much. Next up, we have Alex Boron and Sandra Hernandez. If you could please come up.
Hello, my name is Alex. I live in Northeast Salem. I went to public school here in Salem from kindergarten all the way to high school, and I was one of the youth who had the free bus pass sticker. I graduated in 2011, and I remember when I had that sticker, I was able to go to school. I was able to stay with my teachers and get caught up with homework, and it really was really fantastic. Now it's 2019 and Salem looks a lot different. We have a lot of more people moving in here. A lot of new businesses have started up. I also remember when the property tax failed and the payroll tax failed. After all of that, Salem started changing. I saw a condo that was empty, built after the property tax being failed. Afterwards, I saw a bunch of weird businesses that the community didn't go to, like buying foreign land in foreign countries, insurances for very expensive households. This is called gentrification, and our fear is that now that transportation might have some hope, we're going to be displaced. For too long, transit has been held hostage by special interests in this community, and I hope that we could work together so we could make everything equitable for the people who have lived here, the students, the farm workers, the labor workers. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Good afternoon. My name is Sandra Hernandez. As some of you may already know me, I served for a while in the Statewide Transportation Improvement Fund Advisory Committee, and I am also the director of Latinos Unidos Siempre, a youth-led organization based here in Salem. As you have heard the speeches of the youth before me and young people before me, there is a need to create a lens that identifies and recognizes the unintended consequences of public investment when there is little to no investment in public housing or affordable housing. And while I do not want to provide repetitive information on this issue, I hope that some of these points became clear to you. And I want to reiterate that we need our public transportation investors to work closely with urban housing development to find solutions to this issue, because we want to ensure that the people that benefit most from public transportation are not being pushed out to the city limits where public transportation is hard to obtain. We need our public transit system to prioritize low-income communities over large corporations like Amazon, already doing harm in our community and communities around the world. The new warehouse in Salem is right across one of the most historic public housing developments. Maybe you might know the name of them. It's called Farm Worker Housing Development Corporation, where access to equitable and quality public transportation has been a huge issue there for years. Now that there's Amazon being built there, we hear of a project where public transportation will be brought. And so my question is, how is Amazon helping fund this project? Are they doing anything to ensure that this is being funded through their tax system, or how is it working? And how is this being an investment to the community right across Amazon? There's a major road, Corn Road, that's across Amazon, between Amazon and farm worker housing, where cars drive there like more than 60 miles per hour. So it's an unsafe way for families to cross by all the way to where the Amazon warehouse is. So I would like to know more about the way that this project has been built and how this community will be impacted. And the point of this testimony is not to say that I'm an expert on the solutions that can be brought through funding, implementation, and policy. But I am an expert on working with this community, because I am from this community and I work here daily, with youth, parents, families. And I hope that today we can spark a start to some real investment that may bring some positive solutions with different issues in the community. We want public transportation to be more accessible, reliable, and equitable. But we also want to ensure that we don't accidentally negatively impact the communities that most need these services by pushing them out. And so thank you for listening to us today, and we really hope that we can work together more on these solutions, because we really care about this community. We are from this community. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else that would like to make a public comment that didn't have a chance to sign up? Okay. Next up is the consent calendar. And so could I get a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I move we approve the consent calendar.
Okay, we have a motion
Second?
and a second. Are there any discussion? Okay, I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The consent calendar has been approved. Next up are the action items, and first up is the approval of the intergovernmental agreement with Marion County. We'll turn it over to the general manager to report on it.
Thank you. I'll ask Chip Colby, our Manager of Information Technology, to present the report.
Good evening, President Davidson, members of the board. The matter I bring before you this evening is to request the approval of a contract, actually renewal of a contract with Marion County for select technology services that they offer the district. These technology services are limited to two basic areas. Number one, we lease a section of their computer room on the 4th floor, since it is a well secured and environmentally controlled computer room, and they lease us the space to maintain a rack in that computer room, which serves the district both in terms of its security and its proximity. And second, they also provide support and equipment for the phone system that the district uses, both here at Courthouse Square and at Del Webb. This particular contract is for a period of 5 years. It is historically been renewed every 5 years. And this particular time, while their labor rate went up a slight amount, if you notice in the table below, the amount of money that we pay on a yearly basis for rack space is relatively minimal, $150. So they're making the services available to us very economically. It is staff's recommendation that we that the board approve this particular 5-year contract for a not-to-exceed amount of $128,700. I can answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board?
Just a comment.
just as we've been talking about working together, even in between government agencies, is a plus, and this is right on that.
They've been an excellent partner.
Yep.
Could I get a motion to approve the agreement?
I'll do it.
Okay.
I move that the board authorize, move that the board authorize the general manager to execute an intergovernmental agreement with Marion County for technology solutions and support for a 5-year contract period for a not to exceed amount of $128,700.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Second, thank you. I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you, Chip. Next up is the approval of a contract amendment for Allied Services.
Thanks, and I'd ask Karen Garcia, our Security and Emergency Management Manager, to present the report.
Good evening. This evening, I'm here to ask the board to authorize the general manager to execute a contract amendment with Allied Universal to support enhanced services. Back in November of 2017, the board authorized the general manager to execute a contract with Allied Universal for our security services. It's a 3-year contract with 2 one-year options. The total not to exceed for that 5 years was $1,513,367. So with House Bill 2017, we're going to do the enhanced services. So in September, when we execute the later weeknight and Saturday service, and then later on in May of 2020, when we have the Sunday and holiday service, we need to increase that security staffing to make sure we can provide a safe environment for our customers and employees. So this contract amendment is to sustain the same level of staffing that we have today during our service hours, and it's just commensurate with those enhanced services that we'll be implementing in September of this year and then in May of next year. So the financial impact, the contract amendment for the rest of this year and then the other 3 years that will be following, the total amount for the total 5-year period is an increase of $538,513. So the total 5-year period would now be $2,051,881. Staff recommends that the board authorize the general manager to execute the contract amendment with Allied Universal for the additional transit security services, and again, in the not to exceed amount of $2,051,881. Are there any questions?
Any questions?
Just a comment.
Actually, let's do comments after the motion.
Okay.
Yeah. Is there a motion?
I will. I move the board authorize the general manager to execute a contract amendment with Allied Universal for additional transit security services for a not to exceed total contract amount of $2,051,881.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. And now, any discussion?
So can I comment?
Please.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for all the work that you do for the security of not only the transit centers here in Salem and the one in Kaiser, but just along our bus routes, and people who use our system need to feel safe that they can do that. And so this is an extra piece of the puzzle, so we can provide that also on Saturday, Sunday, and later evening. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for your comment. It's a partnership between the district, our Allied Universal, our private security provider in the city that provides the police services. So really it's a 3-pronged approach and it works really well for us.
Okay. And then,
Yes, President Davidson, question for you is that since this is a private unarmed service that we're enlisting the help of, do they receive culturally competent education, training, and also de-escalation?
They all receive their security guard certification through the state program at the Department of Safety Standards and Training. So they are state certified security staff. They also, by contract, are required to have CPR and first aid, de-escalation training, handcuff training, baton training, and OC spray training. So they're fully trained.
Thanks.
thank you. If there's no other questions or discussion, we'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next up is the approval of contract amendment for MV Transportation.
Thank you. David Trimble, our Chief Operating Officer, will present the report.
Good evening, President Davidson and members of the board. So tonight I'm here seeking your approval for authorization for the general manager to execute a contract amendment with MV Transportation Incorporated for increased transportation services for Cherriots Lift, Cherriots Regional, and Cherriots Shop and Ride. So the rationale for this increase results from enhanced revenue hours from funding from HB 2017, which, as you've heard before, adds additional services to our weekdays and Saturdays beginning next month, and Sundays and holidays beginning in May of 2020. The current 7-year contract totals $34,702,000, and that was approved at the board's October 2017 meeting. We are about 2.5 years into that contract, the contract base term currently. So the additional revenue hours will add $3,361,490 to the contract, bringing the new contract total to $38,063,490. So that additional amount represents an average of approximately 11,000 additional revenue hours per year. Currently, all of our contracted services run about 84,000 hours per year. So, staff recommends that the board authorize the general manager to execute a contract amendment with MV Transportation for transportation enhancements for the delivery of transportation services for an amount not to exceed $38,063,490. And I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
According to this, this contract covers the Saturday service and the later evening service. Plus, it also covers the Sunday service for the duration of the contract.
Correct.
It starts next year.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
And are all the increases in service sort of commensurate with the increase in our service around? So it sort of is a static offering, if you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Could you clarify that question for me? I'm sorry.
So I can understand the increase in service to our fixed route here in town.
Mm-hmm.
Is this just additional service hours at the same levels of service for the hours of increase for the
So I think I see what you're asking. So we have to almost treat it a little bit differently. So the fixed route service is one service, which is not included in the contracted services. Our regional services are set, so there's a fixed amount of additional hours. The Cherriots Lift service is all based on demand, so we make assumptions based on what that demand's going to be. So it's not a one-off apples to apples comparison, but as we increase the fixed route service, for example, we have to have complementary ADA paratransit service. So in that regard, there is a sort of one-for-one increase. Does that answer your question, Director Kern?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So does then, to follow up on that comment, does that apply for the Cherriots Regional and the Shop and Ride as well? I know the Shop and Ride is an on-demand too, but the regional is not.
There are no proposed increases to the Cherriots Shop and Ride services.
Okay. But it's here on the...
Well, that's just saying what the total contract is for, but there's no increase in revenue hours for the Shop and Ride services, only the Cherriots Lift and the Cherriots Regional at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. I would entertain a motion.
I move that the board authorize the general manager to execute a contract amendment with MV Transportation, Inc. for enhancements to the delivery of transportation services for a not-to-exceed total contract amount of $38,063,490.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we're moving to the informational reports section of our agenda, and first up is a report on the Kubler Boulevard Express Route Study.
Sure, I'd ask Jeremy Jorsted from the Planning Department to please present the report.
Good evening, President Davidson, members of the board. I'm here this evening to present two very high-level preliminary routing options that would link South Salem to East Salem using a non-traditional transit vehicle. Please allow me to introduce the Kubler Link. In 2014, an outside planning consultant created a comprehensive service analysis for Cherriots that helped shape our current service. That analysis included introducing high-frequency routes during the majority of our service day. It also included connecting those high-frequency routes without needing to make a transfer downtown. With the passing of HB 2017, we are looking forward to advancing that concept. At the March board meeting, then President Krebs directed staff to develop a proposal that would connect South Salem with Mill Creek Corporate Center. This resulted in the proposed Kubler Link. So the Kubler Link is a very, very high-level look at routing options that would create a frequent link between existing frequent service in South Salem to existing frequent service on Almsville Highway using Kubler Boulevard. It would also provide a frequent link between South Commercial and the Mill Creek Corporate Center. So not only is this an opportunity to link two high-frequency corridors, but it's also a great opportunity to explore options for delivering service in a non-traditional way. We are conceptualizing this service being delivered differently than with the standard bus. We're considering experimenting with a vehicle type such as the Ford Transit van, which would allow for more nimble service. Our slide here kind of touches on where our routing options would touch. Well, we have South Salem Walmart, the Mill Creek Corporate Center, South Salem Kaiser Permanente, and Marion County Corrections Facility. So the unmet needs that this project and routing resolve are that it provides riders with a frequent link between South Salem and Lancaster Drive. Currently, a rider who boards at Walmart in South Salem on Route 21 must make 2 transfers to get to the Mill Creek Corporate Center, and also travel as long as 1 hour and 55 minutes, depending on the time of day. The actual distance between those 2 destinations is about 5 miles and takes approximately 10 minutes in a car. The other unmet need that this resolves is that it connects riders to employment at Mill Creek Corporate Center and the surrounding area. Currently, Mill Creek Corporate Center is being utilized by Amazon, Home Depot, FedEx, Hannigan Cold Storage, Jeld-Wen, and continues to grow. So here's our proposal overview. We're going to start up here looking at option A. This connects Walmart on South Commercial with Marion County Correctional Facility. This is the proposed routing we would take here. The red lines that it touches are actually high-frequency routes. This on South Commercial Route 21, and up here in this corner is the Route 11. Both operate every 15 minutes. Option B, down here at the bottom, starts out here at Kaiser Permanente on Skyline Road, travels Kubler Boulevard up to Marion County Correctional Facility, and it as well touches Route 21 on South Commercial and Route 11 on Almsville Highway. So we'll look a little bit deeper now into option A, just to get a general overview of the routing. Starting here at Walmart, South Commercial, heads out Kubler, ends at Marion County Correctional Facility. This routing is the exact same routing as Route 6 today, up to Trailstead Avenue where it turns left. But from this point to this point, it's the same as Route 6. And then we have an endpoint at Marion County Correctional Facility. And for the return trip to Walmart at South Commercial, same kind of routing, starting at Marion County Correctional Facility. And then once we get to Battle Creek, it follows the same routing as the current Route 6. So we'll look at the stops on the proposal. So beginning here at South Commercial, Walmart, we head north on Walmart, or on South Commercial, sorry. Take a right on Barnes. We'd have 2 stops on Barnes. You can kind of see them there. They're a little bit hard to see. Barnes at Les Schwab, Barnes at Reed Road. Continue on Reed Road, take a left on Battle Creek. We'd have a stop, this is a current stop, Battle Creek at Kubler Boulevard. Continue out Kubler Boulevard, continuing down here on the bottom map. We would want to build a stop at Kubler at 36th Avenue where we have multifamily housing units being built. We also have the Oregon State Police Headquarters. Continue on Kubler Boulevard to Almsville Highway. And we would service the stop at Almsville Highway at Depot Boulevard, I believe it is. That's the stop that would serve Amazon and Home Depot. And the route would end at Marion County Correctional Facility. So heading on the return trip, we would start at Marion County Correctional Facility, service the stop at Depot, turn left on Kubler Boulevard, build a stop for the inbound portion at Kubler at 36th, continue on Kubler, making a left on Battle Creek where we would service the stop at Battle Creek at Kubler, continue on Boone, on Reed Road. We'd have 2 stops on Reed Road. And I'll then take a right on Baxter, service the current 2 stops on Baxter, and end up back at South Commercial Walmart. So as far as frequency, we would be looking at 15-minute service Monday through Friday, which would match the frequency of the core network routes, which we'd be connecting to provide that high-frequency link, and then 30-minute evenings. And Saturday and Sunday, we offer 30-minute service. Our span of service Monday through Friday would be 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., Saturdays 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., Sundays 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., with a round-trip run time of 40 minutes. For our vehicle needs, weekday service, we would need 4 peak vehicles, 2 non-peak vehicles, 1 spare vehicle. Our weekend service, we would need 2 vehicles. Our projected annual revenue hours would be 17,450. Our daily revenue hours would be 58 hours for weekdays, 32 hours for Saturday, 24 hours for Sunday. Here's an estimated cost summary for option A. For labor, we would be looking at approximately $2.3 million annually. For capital improvements, this is for the 2 stops we would build at Kubler at 36. They would require pull-out because they'd be on Kubler Boulevard, and the high speeds there would require the bus to be off the road. So for those 2 pull-outs, approximately $100,000 a piece, which would be a $200,000 one-time only cost. For our vehicles, we would need 5 vehicles, which would total $375,000 for a total of approximately $2.9 million. So some opportunities that option A provides connects South Salem along Kubler Boulevard to Mill Creek Corporate Center, links 2 high-frequent service routes, Route 11 and Route 21. It provides us the opportunity to look at an innovative approach to service delivery. It utilizes existing stops, which helps keeps capital costs down, and it connects with routes 6, 8, and 18. Some things we're considering with this option is the transfer at Marion County Correctional Facility, and if there's a negative perception, this stop serves Marion County Jail, Marion County Parole and Probation, and some Marion County courts. So we're not sure if we want to create a forced transfer at this stop. It also provides duplicative routing with Route 6 at this time. However, with future planning of South Salem routes, Route 6 could look differently by the time this goes and gets into place. So with that, with option A, we can pause and I can take any questions or comments or discussion if you have any at this time.
Great. Thank you so much, Jeremy. Are there any questions, comments, thoughts, dislikes, or discussion?
I do. When you began your presentation, you mentioned that a smaller vehicle offers more nimble service, and I have a lot of ideas of what that could mean, but I would like to hear what we think it means from the perspective of this specific plan.
The routing as it is now doesn't necessarily reflect that nimble service, but it would give us the opportunity to look at routing in ways that we wouldn't normally with a bus. So, for instance, Marion County Correctional Facility isn't a great place for a bus to turn around right now due to the Route 11 with the high frequency service. There's not enough room for another bus to go in. However, if we did have a smaller vehicle, we would be able to pull in and pull out without a problem, or even go down the road further to Corbin University. Also go into neighborhoods away from, or in a different way than the Route 6 does now. So it would provide optional routing, basically.
Okay. And would transit still be required to have a networked sidewalk system in order to place a stop with a more nimble vehicle? Or do we get some kind of a bonus or exception for using
I would
transit?
assume it would need to be ADA compliant.
Okay. And then my next question was, Kubler Boulevard, I mean, it is a very high-speed arterial, and it seems like it connects things on either end, but there's a lot of neighborhoods that are adjacent that don't really have access to that roadway. I'm not from that part of town. I don't travel that way, but sort of just looking at it. Is there any conversations with the city about ways that we could establish a pedestrian connection to some of those places near the stops so that we could bring sort of service to those neighborhoods where one would hope there is at least some latent transit demand?
Those discussions, at this point, no, but those discussions would definitely be a part of this project.
Okay.
I think maybe just add, so now we're getting into the bigger picture discussion about, creating transit centers like the South Salem Transit Center that would provide that circulation type service to a key transit hub to get onto that Kubler Lightning type bus.
Yeah.
But for the purpose of this study, we were asked just to look at some high level, how can we connect in the short term because this all started with the South Salem Transit Center kind of had to take a pause because of location difficulties. But ultimately, that whole 3Cs concept with having centers that allow the nimbleness of small vehicles into neighborhoods to come together to connect to the bus that does your corridor service.
Great, thank you.
So that, just to confirm, this is our starting point for that big, so we can go into the weeds, can go into the neighborhoods and bring them there. Yes?
Well, I think that's always been our plan, is the whole 3Cs concept is creating a set of transit centers that are connected by high-frequency corridors. Back when we established the 3Cs, the concept was circulators. But with changing technology, now we have all kinds of options, whether it's microtransit like this type of thing, or some type of, even bicycle and pedestrian access improvements, park and ride opportunity, the kiss and ride opportunity, TNC collector points. So it opens up, thanks to technology, how we get people to those centers is a whole new ballgame.
Yeah. Thank you.
I live out in this area. I'm there all the time. And at the Walmart store there, that's kind of a weird stop. And a lot of time with the heavy traffic going into the Walmart and going into the Carl's Jr. there, it seems as if with more service headed that direction, it could be even more complicated and more difficult to get in and out. Doing some kind of a centers would seem to be definitely something to consider fairly soon, because that's a very busy little corner right there.
Director Bush?
And would this project help service the comments and concerns that were presented to us tonight by the group of people who are here?
I would say not really as presented, but as Jeremy said earlier, it creates that opportunity for nimbleness into the neighborhoods that are near, because that's nearby but not there.
Another thing on that note too is it's actually connecting two high frequency routes. So if somebody is living in those areas, that it totally the need to travel downtown is no longer there. So you're cutting travel time, which I believe would help anybody who's traveling.
I'd like to add that I think this is definitely a needed link. I think Alan's testimony earlier and then other testimony makes that very clear. If you look at the system map, there's a gap that could be filled there.
Yeah.
The Ford Transit van, it seems like a really clever idea. I guess I just have some weedsy questions. Like how many seats can we fit?
I believe it's 14. Go ahead.
Yeah.
If I may. So, as proposed, it's what we call 12 plus 2. So 12 ambulatory seats and 2 spots for mobility devices.
Okay, so it is ADA accessible.
Oh, well, all of our vehicles are. So
Just
we
wanted
would
to make
ensure
sure.
that. Correct, yes.
Great. And then I assume other transit districts have been using similar vehicles to great effect.
So, yeah, this is not a new concept. For us it is. It's a little different way of thinking and delivering service, but there are other agencies that use these type vehicles. We will actually be using these type vehicles for ADA paratransit service. We've just procured, and really for that nimbleness to be able to get into doctor's office and parking lots and things of that nature. So not a new concept, a little different way of thinking for us, however.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay.
Well, I didn't want to say too much, but I mean, I support this. I mean, I started this process.
That's right.
And I think that we don't want a lot of discussion here, but I think probably at a work session, we need to talk about other ways that we might implement this, because I think it's a hole in our system that needs to be filled.
Absolutely.
Great. Take us to option B, please.
All right. So for option B, we would be beginning at the South Salem Kaiser Permanente and traveling along Kubler Boulevard to Almsville Highway, and our endpoint again would be Marion County Correctional Facility. And for our return trip, basically the same routing, Almsville Highway to Kubler Boulevard and ending at South Salem Kaiser Permanente on Skyline Road. Getting into the routing a little bit more and stops, we would be starting here at this point at Skyline Road at Kaiser Permanente, taking a ride on Croydon Scenic Way. We have two established stops from the routes 8 and 18 on Croydon Scenic Way. We'd turn right on Kubler Boulevard, where we would establish a stop at Kubler at Liberty, another stop at Kubler and Commercial, and we'd skip down here and establish a stop at Kubler at Battle Creek, and a stop at Kubler at 36th, and also another stop at Kubler at Almsville Highway. Then we turn right on Almsville Highway, serve the stop at Almsville Highway at Depot, and end at Marion County Correctional Facility. For the inbound portion to South Salem Kaiser Permanente, beginning at Marion County Correctional Facility, serve the stop at Almsville at Depot, turn left on Kubler, build a stop at Kubler at Lancaster Drive, continue on Kubler, build a stop at Kubler at 36th, continue on Kubler, build a stop at Battle Creek Road, build another stop at Commercial, and build another stop at Liberty, and finally end up at South Salem Kaiser Permanente on Skyline. So for our frequency, it would match option A, and because of the length, our runtime round trip would be 53 minutes. For our weekday service, we would require 5 peak vehicles, 3 non-peak vehicles, and 1 spare vehicle. For weekend service, we would require 3 vehicles. Our projected annual revenue hours would be 22,848. Our daily revenue hours would be 75 hours for weekdays, 48 hours for Saturday, 32 hours for Sunday. Our estimated cost summary for option B, our labor cost would be approximately $3.1 million annually. Our capital improvements cost, due to the construction of the 10 pullouts on Kubler Boulevard, would be approximately $1 million, a one-time only cost. For vehicles, we would need 6. Total there would be $450,000 for a total of approximately $4.5 million. So some opportunities we have with option B are that it covers more distance on Kubler Boulevard than option A, which could result in higher ridership. It shares stops near Kaiser Permanente with routes 8 and 18, which would provide easy connections with those routes. And with new pullouts at Kubler, at Commercial and Battle Creek, that would provide connections with routes 6 and 21. So some considerations that we're looking at for option B, the cost of adding stops along Kubler, and having to build new pullouts, that's a costly endeavor. Currently, routes 8 and 18, we only offer 30-minute service. So with the Kubler link offering frequent service, connections at Kaiser Permanente could only be made every 30 minutes. Coordination with the city of Salem, working through the process of building 10 pullouts would be a major project with a lot of moving parts. And also, because of the safety risk of having bus stops along Kubler due to the high travel speeds, that's something we need to take into consideration as well. And this is just a cost comparison of option A and option B. I don't really have anything to add. And that's it for option B. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions or comments?
I think it's a good idea, but after looking at this, I see some opportunities maybe to revamp the entire South Salem thing and maybe have some savings by incorporating the overlap sections into existing routes.
That makes sense.
And I don't think we need to have a lot of discussion at this meeting, but it's
Absolutely.
a good work session where we can have a lot of candid discussion.
Great.
And just so that I'm clear, sorry. The transit district bears the full cost of constructing a new pullout. That isn't something that we share with the city. We work with them to establish where is a good spot for it, but then we pay we foot the bill.
That would be my understanding.
Okay.
Director Bush.
The timing on this could also go along with ODOT's, Oregon Department of Transportation's study on the changing in speeds on the different highways around the state. So Kubler could possibly be reduced, and that would be accommodating.
Sure.
I would like that. I don't know if our commuters would, but.
Right.
Also, with the high-speed operation on Kubler, it might be that this would be a place where we could install the traffic signal preemption so that we could maybe use traffic signals as a way to get our buses back into circulation.
Yeah, definitely an option.
Okay. I actually have a question.
Okay,
So,
sure.
with regards to the pullouts, would they be of a size enough to allow for buses to utilize them as well?
Yes.
Okay, great. And then, I know this might be too early to ask this question fairly, but do we have a sense on timeline? Like if we were to pull the trigger today?
I can't answer that question.
Yeah, it was an unfair question, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Thanks for coming.
I have one more question, kind of along the same timeline, is when we make a decision about, option A or option B, how frequently do we evaluate the success of that service and whether or not we need to exercise some of our nimble neighborhood ways and change the locations?
We do an origin destination survey every 2 years that helps inform us of customers' needs. We're actually getting set to do one of those, I believe, the first part of next year, which could help inform us for this.
Okay.
But other than that, that's right now because we don't have the technology on our vehicles that could be used to get that kind of data. We really rely a lot on that.
And will these vehicles have that technology incorporated when it becomes available on the bigger buses?
I would assume so. We haven't thought that far ahead. We're still in the concept phase.
It's a great concept.
Okay. Please.
So just kind of some next steps. We're going to gather any feedback that we've gleaned here today, kind of look to refine proposals, initiate conversation with the city of Salem, and this will be based over months at a time, and then review our replacement and expansion plans for vehicles. So just kind of weighing it out for you as far as kind of what's next to come.
Okay. Do you feel like you have sufficient feedback from us at this point?
I do.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I'd just like to thank my team too that helped me put this together.
This is great. Thank you so much to everyone.
Sure.
The audience likes it too.
Yeah. So next up is the September service change briefing.
Great. So Chris French, our senior planner, will present this report.
Good evening, President Davidson and members of the board. I'm here to provide the September 2019 service change briefing. We provide this briefing 3 times a year just prior to our service changes. Our service changes take place in January, May, and September. With our September service change this year, it is very exciting times for us as we look at the beginning of extended weekday service and Saturday service on most all of our local Cherriots routes, as well as adding trips to the 1X that provides service between Salem and Wilsonville, the 10X, which provides service between Salem and Woodburn, the 40X, which provides service between Salem, Independence, Monmouth, and Dallas, and the 50X, which provides service between Salem and Dallas on weekdays. As well, we are adding regional Saturday service on the 10X, as well as the 20X, which serves the areas between Salem, Silverton, Mount Angel, and Woodburn, and the 30X, which provides service from Salem through Turner, Almsville, Staten, Mill City, and Gates, and then also on the 40X. Along with that added service, we have made some additional changes to our service. The Route 2 and the Route 7 we are adding hours to that service to help with on-time performance from analysis that we've done over the past few months to help with on-time performance. There also are changes that are scheduled to take place around the Kaiser Transit Center with rerouting. With the delay of the transit signal at the Kaiser Station, the Route 19 and 14 will be on detour until that project is completed. The detour that those routes will be on is basically what they're currently doing today. With the service, we were too far in the process when we found out about all the delays, so reproducing all of the materials was not possible. So those routes will be on detour until until the signal is in place. And with that, I can answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions? Okay, thank you so much. Next up is the performance report for the 4th quarter of the year.
And Chris is already here.
And that will be me again.
Punctual.
Right on time. So I'm here to present on FY19 quarter 4 performance report. This covers April to June of 2019. First, we'll look at changes by service. So looking at the Cherriots local service, we had an increase in revenue hours and revenue miles and a slight increase in daily boardings. This increase for the revenue hours and revenue miles is directly tied to the extension of the Route 11 that we did, extending it from Lancaster and Ricky, which used to be the end of the line, out to Marion County Correctional Facility. We did this a year ago in September, anticipating the opening of Amazon and other businesses in that area, which they delayed their opening. They are now open recently, so we hope to see these numbers in boardings increase. Our average daily boardings, this looks at kind of the trend over the years. Looking at April, May, June of FY19, April was slightly down from the previous year, as well as May, and June was slightly above. Next, we'll look at Cherriots Regional Express routes. We had a very slight increase in revenue hours, revenue miles, and we've also seen a fairly decent increase in ridership on our regional system, which is exciting to see. Cherriots Regional Flex, this is the Polk County Flex. This saw an increase in revenue miles and revenue hours, and a decrease in boarding. This service we've been working with in September of last year. We made adjustments to it. This service was being used primarily by group homes to get people to work sites, and was not really available to the general public. And so we've been working on trying to adjust that, and so there's a significant change in ridership. We're working on a project right now for this flex service that will be coming before you in the coming months. Cherriots Shop and Ride is down across the board. This is a grant-funded service, and so we were right-sizing the service to the grant dollars that were available for this year. So there was a decrease in funding, and so with that, there's a decrease in service. Cherriots Lift service is down as well. This is a demand-responsive service, and so demand has just been down in this year during this time period compared to the previous year. Next, we'll look at total by service year-to-date, comparing FY18 to FY19. Revenue hours are slightly up. Revenue miles slightly up, and boardings for the local system are slightly down currently. Year-to-date for the regional system, revenue hours are slightly up, as well as miles, but we also see that increase in boardings. Cherriot Shop and Ride shows down in revenue miles, slightly up in revenue miles, and boardings are down as well. Lift service, the revenue hours are pretty close to previous years. Revenue miles are down, and boardings are down as well year to date. Next, we'll look at changes by route. Boardings per revenue hour is how we kind of measure the routes, and we have target boardings for our corridor routes of 20 boardings per hour. Currently, the Route 13 is leading the pack with 28.6 boardings per revenue hour, and Route 17 is bringing up the tail with 13.3. The Route 13 in this period, we made changes. It goes closer to Chemeketa Community College now, where it used to be a little farther away, plus some other government agencies along Silverton Road that have opened up have increased ridership along that corridor. For our coverage routes, Route 16 is the route that's kind of leading the pack. That is a route that's in West Salem. It's the strongest route that we have in West Salem, with Route 27 and 26 being at the bottom with less than 5 boardings per revenue hour. Looking at our regional express routes, we have a target boarding for those routes. And as you can see, the 1X and 40X are both performing above that standard, and the 40X has grown significantly over last year. The Route 20X is the lowest performer, but as you see, it is coming up. It has shown improvement over last year. For the demand response services, they're fairly steady compared to last year, with the Polk County Flex being the one that shows the major change, and we discussed that in the earlier slides. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions?
I had just one. In regards to the Wilsonville, the Cherriots Regional Express, we were up the 9.9% boardings per day, right? So I was just wondering if that had any correlation to the fact of the legislature being in session.
For, on the regional system?
Yeah.
On the 1X.
On the 1X?
1X.
Let me go back to that slide. Can you tell which slide were you? Are you this? The 9.9, 33?
Yes.
The major, so across the board, I can't say if it's for the, it being in session, but just across the board, I mean, the 40X, and looking at ridership numbers from the current months, because we look at it monthly, the regional system is performing strongly, and the legislature is not in session right now. And with the 1X, that route is kind of centered around, and there are a lot of legislatures that ride, or people that ride that for the sessions. The other routes are not really commute-based orientated. They are more spread throughout the day to provide that link between between the communities into Salem. And so I don't think, other than the 1X, I would not think that it's affected very much by the legislation.
Okay.
Legislature.
Director Richards.
In reference to that, I work at the Capitol, and this year was one of the poorest groups of people coming to the Capitol that we've seen. It was like a morgue in there a lot of the days, and that could definitely do that, because the parking being so expensive at the Capitol, that's, you know, people would use the buses, I'm sure, because it's about $16.50 to $17 a day if you pay all day. So it just, this year wasn't an exciting day as far as what was going on. It was run kind of differently, and it just really wasn't that popular.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, looking at our daily boardings by month, that information, I can kind of intuit why we would have lower boardings by month in December, and then through the summer in July and August. I'm wondering if we have sales data related to our monthly passes. I don't know how much the monthly passes support our ridership overall, but I'm just curious if there's a relationship there. Because I know if I didn't buy a monthly pass for December because I was going to be on vacation for 2 weeks, I might think, well, maybe I'll find a different way, since I don't want to have to come up with change every day to get on the bus or buy a day pass. But if we had potentially a more flexible pass system for the month sales, it might allow people to ride kind of right up to the vacation and right after, rather than have a low month overall. So I'm just wondering if there's any relationship we can establish by looking at the past sales data and looking at the ridership.
We have that data. I don't know what it is right off, but we can look at that and see if the past sales kind of followed this same trend. That's something that I haven't thought of, so we can take a look at that.
Cool.
I've written it down, and we'll see what we can come up with.
With reference to that same chart, I'd be curious to see weather data, is particularly rain, maybe overlaid on top. I know weather can impact ridership, and so just to give context, like if, fiscal year 17 was particularly rainy in the spring, how that impacts in comparison, because it's, at least for me, I don't know if it's a very good apples to apples comparison without the weather impact.
Yeah, I think that that's a good point. If you look back at the February month, there was significant bad weather. The schools were out of session. Chemeketa was closed for multiple days. And you can see that FY19 was exactly opposite of the trend that we usually see in February. We usually see that uptick in February, and because of the weather in February, it definitely did that. So we can look at seeing if we can tie that into this chart.
Yeah, thank you. And then I just wanted to make another comment and say that I recently met with the Marion County's undersheriff for my day job, and he, when I mentioned to him that I now am on the Cherriots board, he immediately expressed gratitude for the route change that occurred a year ago, and said that a route now going to community corrections and also the correctional facility there has made a big impact. Previously, he was head of community corrections, so parole and probation, and it made a big impact in the lives of the clients there, those that are under supervision. So thank you for that. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up is the trip choice report for the fourth quarter.
Yes, I'd ask Roxanne Belts, our Trip Choice Program Coordinator, to make the presentation.
Good evening, President Davidson, members of the board. I'm Roxanne Belts. I'm the Trip Choice Program Coordinator. The Trip Choice Program is made up of myself. We have a program specialist and a program assistant. The Trip Choice Program, its purpose is to provide transportation options information and services to commuters, employers, and residents in our community so that they have the resources available and information that they need to choose the best trip, the best option for each trip that they take. So I'm here to present a summary of the fourth quarter for the Trip Choice Program and some highlights of some of our activities to come. Each year we work with our grant funders, which is ODOT and the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments, to develop a work plan that will address goals and metrics for regional transportation options. And so those goal areas are raising awareness and understanding within the community, and we serve Polk, Marion, and Yamhill County, so our region is a little larger than Cherriots' footprint. Expanding our markets, promoting safety, and then conducting education when there's going to be congestion or there's going to be construction. An important part of raising awareness and education, of course, is getting out and meeting people. So we go to quite a few outreach events, and at those events, we like to talk one-on-one with people and help them figure out what kind of travel option will work best for them. We also like to make sure that the services that we're providing match what the community needs. So we're constantly looking at our services as well. The last quarter we tabled and we talked with quite a few people at Transit Day at the Capitol, Wainema Place Health and Career Fair, Earth Day at the Oregon Gardens, and the Earth Day at Chemeketa College. So at these events, we have all the information about our programs. We also pass out bicycle maps. We pass out Wander Walks maps, which we've created, as well as safety lights and other promotional items. We do like to get an opportunity at these events to talk with folks, again, about what they need. For example, at the Oregon Gardens, when we were at that event that day, there's thousands of people that attend. We get an opportunity to talk with hundreds of people, not just about the 20X, for example, that serves the Silverton area, but we also offer them, when someone will say, well, that doesn't work for me, we then offer them our other free services where we do ride matching for carpools and van pools. So we're always able to offer them some sort of alternative. Other resources, other outreach events that we attend focus on sometimes our internal customers, our own coworkers, or some of our younger supporters. The walk and roll night that happened at Kennedy Elementary, we fitted and gave away 30 brand new bicycle helmets and about 150 bike light sets. And those sets are front and back, white light for front, red light for back of the bicycles. We did the Hallman Elementary Resource Fair and the Cherriots Employee Wellness Fair. So we attended and made sure our own employees know about the services for carpooling and vanpooling as well. At the Gilbert House Summer Block Party, kids were able to take pictures and they got to meet our new Team Cherriots characters there. We've been doing a lot of employer outreach over the last 3 to 6 months as we're expanding our markets, offering information again about our free services, but specifically we've been focusing on our Group Pass program. So talking with state agencies or employers like Home Depot or Amazon, we ask them about their current commuter programs, and that's a foot in the door, and it gives us a chance to talk to them about what a great benefit it would be and how cost effective it would be for them to offer a Group Pass program as well. And our newest participant in the Group Pass program is the Department of Land Conservation and Development, DLCD. And they have about 60 employees at the downtown Salem site, and they are promoting transit as a commuter benefit with this pass. So we hosted a kickoff party in July. We introduced the pass, made sure the employees knew how to use it, how to activate it, and we also introduced the new statewide ride matching tool, and it's a trip tracking tool as well called Get There Oregon. Another transportation option that we promote is vanpooling. We work with the Council of Governments down in, it's the Cascades West Council of Governments in Albany. We work with Lane Transit. We also partner with SMART up in Wilsonville. We promote vanpooling using the marketing name Valley Vanpool. Hopefully you've seen some of the vans going up and down the highway that say Valley Vanpool. We currently support 44 vans in that program. That serves about 400 commuters. 29 of those vans are subsidized by the Cherriots Trip Choice program with 5307 grant NTD funds that we receive. So we help support keep those vans on the road. And as I mentioned last quarter, we are in the process of rebranding this program with our partners. Ultimately, it will be called Vanpool Northwest so that we expand the idea of how far we can go, not just the valley. We had a new opportunity to partner with Marion County Environmental Services to create a survey recently. One of our employee transportation coordinators, which are the people that work in the agencies that we give information to them and then that individual passes it on to their coworkers, one of our ETCs asked us to help with a survey of people in Northeast Salem. They wanted to gauge residents' travel behavior. So we were all interested in the environmental impacts of the residents' car use. We also were interested in what their mode use was and the travel choices that they made. About 400 people have taken that survey so far, and when it closes, we'll have a good chance to analyze and evaluate those results as well. I know a common theme that you all know, in fact, we started our meeting with a safety moment, a common theme that occurs throughout Cherriots, as well as most of our partners, is about safety. One area that we really shine in safety is our bike and pedestrian outreach. So we partnered with Marion County Health and Human Services at Almsville and Kennedy Elementary School, and we fit helmets and again distributed those bike lights, front lights, back lights. We also provided safety information and bike lights at the Woodburn Fire Department Bike Safety Rodeo, Northeast Salem Bikes Rodeo, and the Harrod Elementary School Rodeo. And we do this not only to ensure that our future riders know about Cherriots, but we also want to make sure that they have safe bicycles to ride, that they have working lights, and that they have well-fitted helmets. So this will be the last report on Drive Less Connect users. Drive Less Connect was our old statewide database that we used. We have transitioned to the new statewide tool. It's called Get There Oregon. But just so we can finish up, we still had some people that registered in Drive Less Connect in the last quarter, and that was fine because everybody that was in that database received an email encouraging them to go to the new database. All the information was transitioned, so all they had to do was log into the new database. Any trips that they had tracked would already be within their new profile. And here are the final numbers for total number of users in the database. As I said in the past, this number represents the total number of people signed up in the database. It wasn't necessarily the number of people that were using the database. They just happened to still have a profile. One of the advantages now of the new database is that we will not be we will have a much better idea of who is actually using the system on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, looking for carpool matches, tracking their trips. And so it'll be a much more effective system and more accurate reporting for us. Coming attractions. Well, sort of coming attractions. This is something that's happening right now. Ride Salem officially launched their program in June. They opened near the downtown transit mall, as well as there are several other docking stations here in town. Trip Choice is a business supporter, and so what that means is 2 of the bicycles have our name on the front. It says Cherriots Trip Choice on the basket. Groups of Cherriots employees have actually already tried it. We've already signed up. We took a couple rides at lunchtime. It's very easy to do. You simply download the app and take it from there. If you're interested in more information, I'd be happy to share how the bike share system works. And then we're also participating in Saturdays All Right for Riding, September 7th, our Saturday service kickoff. We will have an information table there for Trip Choice. We're also sponsoring a guest appearance from Caesar, the No Drama Llama, and we will have a parklet in the center of the North Block. And what that means is like a pop-up park. We're going to have a little park right there in the center of the North Block, just to show people what it's, how nice it is to have a park in the middle of the city. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions you have.
Are there any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I do have a shout out. Thank you for leaving the little reminder promotional material. We have that in strategic places around our office, and I think it's a good reminder to the folks that got a pass and those that weren't able to get into our HR department and find them. But you guys did a great job with that outreach fair, and the materials that you left behind have been really helpful. So thank you.
Thank you. I'll pass that on to the team.
I actually have a question about so I'm also a state employee, so the DLCD programs is very interesting. So did you initiate that, or did DLCD initiate that?
DLCD actually initiated it. One of their human resource employees used to be one of our employee transportation coordinators. And
They're everywhere.
She reached out to us and said, we're really interested in learning more about this. And so we connected her. She connected up with Kiki Doman, who's our program specialist, and they worked out the contract, worked out the price, and the price, it's so reasonable. The cost is very, very low, and you provide a bus pass for all of your employees. So definitely, we'd be happy to talk to you about it.
Okay.
And the good news is DLCD is hiring, Ian. So
Oh, there you go.
There's more than one way to.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great benefit, and again, parking downtown, so expensive.
Yeah.
Great thing to do for your employees.
Okay. Thank you.
I appreciate your social online presence.
Thank you.
I'll see it when I'm, everybody's thumbing through the online, oh, there's Drive Less Connect, or there's Cherriots Trip Choice. And it's always fun to share that and get lots of great responses.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the feedback. I'll again share it with my team.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Next up, the general manager's report.
Sure. So I just have a couple of quick items. One is, rumor has it that Linda Galeazzi is watching, and so we wish her well and speedy recovery. We miss her being here, but I hear she's doing well and getting better every day. So the other items, so as you can imagine, all Cherriots' major functions have been centered around the enhancements and the service event on 9/7. And as we get closer, really the whole public outreach piece is coming up. I think President Davidson will make a comment on it, but radio interviews are ramping up, newspaper articles. So the word, all the frenzy that we've been building over the last several months is now coming to that peak, and we are ready to go in just a few weeks. So, and that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Next up are the Board of Director reports, and I'll save my report for the end. So if we could start maybe on the left with Director Nguyen and move our way down.
Great. Thank you, President Davidson. I was not able to attend the WISNA meeting on Monday, but I did reach out to their board just to formally make the introduction that I will be attending, and I also will be traveling for work in September, so my first meeting for them will be in October.
Perfect. Thank you. Director Krebs?
Well, I had not a very busy month, but I did attend the OMPOC meeting, which is the Oregon Metropolitan Planning organizations consortium, and it was a very interesting meeting in Portland. I sent you a report on it, but just briefly, some of the things that happened at the meeting were, I have to get the right sheet of paper out here. We had a lot of talk about the last board session, or last legislative session, and some of the things that happened there. And there were most of the activity was on the road side, but there were a few transit things that happened. And one was a study to look at the passenger rail service in the Willamette Valley and get it to run on time. And there was another one to extend the Wilsonville commuter rail down to Salem, but unfortunately that one didn't pass. And they said one of the reasons it didn't pass, we didn't have any legislators from this area. They were all Portland legislators, and they already have it up there, so they didn't really need to approve it. We had reports from around the state, and one of the most interesting things that happened was that we had a tour, a hard hat tour of the new Hyatt Hotel that's being built across the street from the convention center. And this is a 600-room hotel, and right now it has a plywood front door, but it was very interesting to go through that building because some of the rooms already have beds and fixtures in them, but the top floors are still being built. So they said they built like 3 roofs in the building as it went up so they could start putting rooms in at the lower levels as the upper levels were still being finished. And next OMPOC meeting has not been decided, but it's going to be sometime around 11th of October. And I attended one neighborhood association, and that's about all I did as far as, and the various functions that but I do have to hold up my sign. This will be my last sign, 16 days until Saturday service starts.
Great, thank you. Director Carney.
Slow month for me as well. I wasn't able to attend my normal Grant Neighborhood Association meeting, and I can't remember the last time I missed one, but it was the same night I had to pick up my 4-year-old from sleepaway camp, so I had to give priority to that activity. But I did reach out to them and let them know that we would have Saturday service starting in September, and some of the details about the free service that would be available on Saturdays throughout the month. And I got some good feedback on that and a positive reception, and I hope to do a little bit more outreach in the coming month.
Great, thank you. Director Bush.
Okay. I was kind of busy this month. Attended several Salem Greeters functions, and one for Woodburn and one for Salem. I went to some training for the Special Districts Association in Tigard, and then we had some of that same training at our last work session. We talked about how to be a board member and how to do that ethically, what our roles and responsibilities were about finances, public meetings, public records, etc. So I feel very educated right now. I attended Kaiser City Council's meetings, and at the last one, which was Monday, the council adopted a resolution to send a letter not supporting the no-build alternative for the Salem River Crossing project. River Road has been under repaving, and that's almost done in Kaiser. Lock Haven should be done by the time school starts, so our buses will have better on-time performance. The buildable land study is still in progress, and the Kaiser Growth Transportation Impact Study is beginning. So that will help us as well as a transit district. Let's see. Several of the constituents I met with were very excited about the service coming up. One of them, we had a lengthy discussion with an employee from Portland General Electric, and we talked about the future of electric buses in Salem. And especially in the event of maybe if we're all electrified, how could we prepare for the big one if the grid might go out or that kind of thing. So it was a rather interesting discussion. We solved all the problems of the world.
Good.
Yes.
Glad to hear.
So I was a member of the Kaiser Revitalization Plan over the past year and a half as part of a Citizens Advisory Committee, and that work came to the City Planning Commission on the 14th, and I was able to help advocate for transit during that process. And it's a series of change in overlay for building codes, and that was very helpful and benefiting work for us. Kaiser Fire Board. They had a presentation from the Special Districts Association regarding their obligations funds for purchasing their equipment. They don't have buses, but they do have their fire trucks, and they have all the equipment they use in their first aid services, emergency services. And they want to invite the public to attend their 9/11 Remembrance ceremony, and complimentary breakfast at 7 a.m. on September 11th at the district station. They'll also be doing some other activities and have an open house in October. Representative Post was the guest speaker at the Kaiser Government Affairs Committee meeting on Wednesday. He updated the group about various bills, including the Timber Unity activity, the Moms for Medical Freedom, and that his, say it right, pseudoephedrine bill, pay equity, and what to look for in the upcoming session. And then yesterday, Chris French and I got to speak with Lyndon Zaitz with the Kaiser Times, and that was a great conversation. I got to speak on the high level, and then it just naturally went into Chris, and he had all the details needed for every question. And I really appreciate your support, and especially our staff is just super. And then we were able to go over to the Kaiser Transit Center and take a couple pictures with the sandwich board saying, Saturday service is coming. So we're going to encourage new ridership and get our numbers up there with this great service. And that's all.
Thank you. Director Richards?
Yes, I'm being new. I had to start working on it. I talked to Bob last month about the neighborhood groups that I'd be working with, and I found out a very interesting thing. There's a person that works down at the city hall that takes care of all these committees, and I got contacted them and talked to them, and they helped me get into a few things. And I was invited to a new thing that's coming up. It's going to be a program run through the state and a lot of different agencies on emergency services for people with disabled people. And it was a very interesting meeting, and I'm real lucky because my wife is one of the co-chairs. So what I didn't pick up there, she beat into my head when I got home. But it's going to be real good, and there will be a thing to do that. And again, there's a lot to learn on something that I haven't done, much work with, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Great, thank you. For my report, our neighborhood did a national night out, and so I took the opportunity to remind everyone that Saturday service was coming, flag different changes that were coming. And then this morning, Alan and I, we went and were interviewed on KBZY radio for a little segment on the service enhancements that are occurring. And then this afternoon, I met with Jonathan Bach from the Statesman Journal and discussed same service enhancements. So a lot of interest from the community, which is really great, interest from the press, which is even better. I have also started beginning outreach to the mayors and other elected officials in the region. Beyond my individual report, I wanted to do, I guess, three things. The first is that Alan spoke probably, I think it was earlier this month, about the general manager work plan. And so it's an opportunity for us to, as a board, to take a look at what Alan as general manager is doing and make sure that his work plan is focused on what our overall goals are. And so initially I would like to assign the executive committee to meet with Alan to develop a proposed fiscal year 2020 general manager work plan, identifying goals and objectives to then ultimately be brought back to the full board at the October 2019 meeting. And so hopefully we'll be able to work out some kinks and then have a good discussion in that October meeting. And then I'd also like to assign the executive committee to meet and develop the agenda for our board retreat, which is scheduled for September 21st. So as a reminder, we're meeting for 4 or 5 hours to discuss governance issues. So Alan has put together a rough agenda but we'd like to put some additional meat on those bones. So I would like the executive committee to help us do that. And then lastly, I'll distribute this, actually, this memo. So this is a memo with the committee assignments. So just as a reminder, in the work session we discussed about the different committees that Cherriots board members serve on, and in our bylaws it states that the president of the board can make those assignments. So after hearing from most of you about which boards interest you, and depending on availability and then conflicts from different interests from multiple people, these are the assignments that I've made. So so if there's nothing else for the meeting, are there any other questions or comments? And one more plug, of course. So the September 7th, looking forward to it. I hope you'll all join me there. I believe we have t-shirts ordered for everyone, and it should be a lot of fun. My 3-year-old, she's already older. My 3-year-old is really excited to see Cesar the No Drama Llama, so really looking forward to it. So she's also terrified of it, so yeah. Anyways, thank you so much, and we are adjourned.